Okay. Every time I try to think about what's the better title for the entire lesson. Okay, I'll change Asceticism and the Formation of Roman Catholic. Oh yeah, please change the screen name, okay? All right. So remember this big title, okay? Early church. And then early church, we can divide it into two, the expansion and persecution, and then imperial church, okay? Why 313? Who can tell me what happened in 313? Let me see. Elijah, do you remember what's happened in 313? Why we use it to divide? 313.
I think it's because the Roman emperor is a Christian.
Yes, but specifically, that's the law. Who can tell me?
The Edict of Milan.
Yes, okay. 313 is Edict of Milan. Say
Constantine became Christian.
Yeah, so it's legal for Christian to worship. And that's why we see there. Okay. So expansion and got persecuted, and then 313. Now it's legalized to worship. But we talk about the pro and con, right? It's a good thing, but also a lot of challenge comes into the church. So that's kind of going to respond to what happened. Now the church expanding. And interesting, you also see before 313, that's no church building. People worship at home. But now they started worshiping the magnificent building. People come into church, but it started also lost the purity of the church. So that's what comes things. Asceticism. What does that mean? Actually, it's nothing new, okay? That, okay. Who can read this for me? Christine, can you read this? Number 6.
Okay. The Nazirite vow, Numbers 6:1. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when either a man or a woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazirite, to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar made from wine or strong drink, and shall not drink any juice of grapes or eat grapes, fresh or dried. All the days of his separation, he shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, not even the seeds of the skins.
Okay, stop here for now. So who made this vow? In the Old Testament time, remember? Who had made this vow?
Samson?
Samson, yes. So that's already give us some idea that if you want to be very spiritually close or dedicated to God, you would make this vow, and that you make yourself not as comfortable as you normally could be, okay? So that gives us idea of that. And then New Testament time, Essence, also doing similar. This is like a sect under Judaism. Looks like John the Baptist is something like this, okay? A branch of the Pharisees who conform to the most rigid rule of the Levitical purity while aspiring to the highest degree of holiness. And this group, we get to know them more because of Dead Sea Scroll, right? They copy the Bible, they do so. This gives us some background of a particular group of people. They want to come close to God, so they want to refrain from normal enjoyments, okay? So, but why this time have more this reaction to church greatest success? Remember, we're talking about the now is legalized. So many people, not only legalized, they don't become the state religions. Wow, if you become Christian, now you can have a lot of privilege that you used to don't have. So many people just want to come to church, may not really believe, all right? And so some true believers feel there's something wrong. We cannot be just like this in the church. And now they're no longer being persecuted. Remember, they used to be persecuted. So they call that martyr, Matus, remember? Called red martyr. But now they cannot be persecuted, so they use this way, ascetics, okay, to they call white martyr. So I want to do something special with different. The monk become the conscience of Christendom. Next week, we're going to talk more about monastery, okay? But this is the beginning of that. Sometimes you can say, why we need to do that, okay? But we need to see, let's do a lot of crazy things. But we got to see what's behind, okay? They also take it from the Bible. Joshua, can you read this verse?
1 Corinthians 7:32. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord.
Okay, so let's take this verse literally. They would say, I want to wholly dedicate to praise God. All right, so the very first one, remember this guy, most famous Saint Anthony. And look at this time, 251 to 356. So still in the early church time, right? But it's already after 313, okay? Remember 313, okay? So Saint Anthony is called desert hermit. He's the first one we know, okay? The desert father. And he read this verse. Grace Wayne, can you read this verse?
Luke 18:22. When Jesus heard this, he said to him, you still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me.
So we gotta admire that really take God's word and took it just practice. Okay. And we know about it from Athanasius. He wrote a book called Life of Anthony. And so he was born in Egypt, okay? He's from Egypt, around 80 to 50. It's a very well-to-do parents, for family. One day he is about only 20 and he left all his possessions when you heard about that sermon from the rich young ruler. The rich young ruler in the Bible time, he left. He doesn't want to sell anything. But this guy, Anthony, he's abandoned all his and spent 12 years in desert, then 20 years in an abandoned fort without seeing a human face. Could you believe that? But actually now, Japan has a lot of people, they're just hiding in their home. So, but it's not this. But later was surrounded by other hermits who followed him. And he became their spiritual advice. Wow. Isn't it amazing, these people? Okay. And later on, you see that in the desert, they become a monastery. Okay. This is in Egypt, in the desert, the monastery of St. Anthony. I have another dream is that I'm going to visit more monastery, or maybe just we can stay there for a while. We would like to to experience how monks live. Okay, so the monastery of St. Anthony was established by the follower of St. Anthony, who was the first Christian monk, Anthony. Okay, the monastery of St. Anthony is one of the most prominent monasteries in Egypt and has strong influence and formation of several Coptic institutions Who have heard about this Coptic? You know, they are Christian in Egypt, you know? And they are branch of Christian called Coptic. Okay? So I want you to know there are a lot of other Christians out there. Okay, we know we are Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, but in Egypt, they call Coptic. And very sad, they've been persecuted. Remember this 2015? All these are Coptic Christians. All right. So they are the Christian in Egypt. Okay. Could be from 5% or even to 15%. All right. And the Cop means that Egyptians. All right. They can trace back all the way to Apostle Mark. Okay. The Mark went to Egypt and established this church. So they see that biggest headquarters that their leader resided at this church, so-called St. Mark Cathedral, is in Cairo, Egypt. All right. So remember then, you may read it from the newspaper, Coptic in Egypt, and they're still being persecuted. All right. So by studying church history, we also need to pray and remember our other Christian brothers and sisters. Many years ago, I worked in my office. I encountered a Coptic Christian. He's from Lebanon, you know, and he says he's a Christian, he's Coptic. Said, wow, I never know about this. Okay. So yeah, even in those challenge difficult areas, they are Christian. Okay. And they this special influence by Mark and Anthony, St. Anthony, the hermit. Okay. All right. So you know this first guy, St. Anthony. Okay. Then this is even more weird. Simon Stylist. He's built this pillar and just live on that place. Is that okay? So I know some are getting stuff crazier, but this happened, and the people try use different way to come close to God, right? And patch means, oh, I don't know. So before that's hermit, right? That's only individual. But now people start to say, hey, we want to group together. So in 320, that Parthenos built the first Christian monastery in southern part of Egypt. So usually we won't think about Egypt related to Christian, right? But it is. Okay. So 320, right? Okay. So this first part, I'm going to visit the second part of monasticism next week, because that's the big movement in the medieval church. Okay. But you already can see from 320 to 313, when the church started to be kind of taken over by the world, and that's what is happened. Okay. And it is more and more so in the medieval time, the more happened. Okay. So this is like from second part of the early church emerging into the medieval church. But during this time, I want you to know this guy, Augustine, probably is the most famous one in the church history, right? He, I should have let someone to do this presentation. I still need to find like improve all this syllabus. But who can tell me how much you know about Augustine? Who can say something about him? Anybody? Augustine. Anybody heard about him? How about Peter? How much do you know about Augustine?
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Augustine.
Okay, Augustine. Okay, good. So how much do you know about Augustine?
He wrote many famous books.
Okay. Like?
Confessions.
Okay.
City of God.
Okay. And how about his life? Anybody know about his life? His background, his upbringing?
I think he was raised by a Roman family, and he, in his younger ages, he used to be very wild.
Ah, okay. Oh, is it Grace? You're back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Okay. But he is the greatest theologian. Right. Augustine's life marked the end of one era, as well as the beginning of another. He was the last of the ancient Christian writer and the forerunner of medieval theology. Okay, so you see, he is in this. Today we are talking about in the transition time, right? From later part of the early church, and we're moving into the medieval church. So Augustine is in this period of time. And it's probably sometime we are living in this transition or turning point of time, right? This is someone to encourage his mother. Do you know Augustine's mother's name?
Monica.
Monica, yes, okay. So he was born in North Africa. Mother Monica was a devoted Christian, right? But father is not. And age 16, he went to college. Wow, brave. But he is indulging in all kind of fun things. He even has an affair with a girl, even had a child, right? When age 30, he become a professor, all right? With Ambrose, he's also a very famous bishop. And even with all this success, he still couldn't find peace. And he's struggling, right? And but among this time, mother keep praying for him. All right, so this is a great encouragement for prayers, basically for parents. See, 33, he was baptized, right? How? What happened? And then he became the bishop of Hippo. Okay, Hippo. All right. So this is a very interesting, famous story, right? So he was struggling all this. He wanted to find peace. One day he was in a garden, and he hears some children say, "Pick up and read. Pick up and read." And he just picked up the Bible and read Romans 13. Dominic, can you read this part?
Okay, Romans 13:13-14. Let us walk properly as in the daytime, not in orgies and drunkenness, not in sexual immorality and sensuality, not in quarreling and jealousy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires.
Wow. I don't know, it's a Holy Spirit guide him. So he just opened the Bible and read this part. And he said, "You was a thought, a light of faith flooded into my heart, and all the darkness of doubt was dispelled." Wow. And God answered his prayer and he was saved. So remember, he is very smart. He was very intellectual. So he started writing the books. Most famous one, Confessions on the Trinity, City of God. Remember we talked about he's living in the transition time. Later we're going to talk about more on the West Roman Empire fell. So 4110, when Roman city fell, he wrote this book, The City God, to encourage Christian, right? So there are two types of city. One is city of man, is pagan society. No matter how glorious the city of man is, it will eventually perish. But that's also another type, city of God, will exist forever. You see, we need to be encouraged, right? Be reminded, right? But this book, Confession, is very, who has read? I hope. The reason why I want to teach you church history now is because I want to introduce this type of writing to you. So you will pick up and read, okay? Not just the textbook, but in your leisure, in the summertime, whatever, you will pick up and read. I wish to know about this so I can read, all right? Confessions, the first full-scale autobiography of the ancient world and one of the most influential spiritual autobiography for all time. Before Confession, nobody dared to write, address to God directly. But Confession is a confess to God. So he's confessing his sin to God. So this is a new style, right? And probably you heard about this. Our hearts are restless until the rest in you. You see, in God. So pick up and read. But later on, he also involved with a lot of apologetics. All right. Every generation, we got to fight. So around his time, Pelagius, this person started to say, each one of us enter the world with complete freedom to sin or not sin. Well, all right. So he denied the original sin. Not only that, he also say we can solve the problem of sin ourselves. Human beings always have the ability to overcome their sins. Augustine read the Bible, he know that's not right. Okay, so he's a human nature. This guy Pelagius say, human being is not corrupted. Children have no sin until they have free will, decide to sin, right? But he said, no, sin only had the willpower to sin, nothing else. And he developed this doctrine of original sin. Only God can restore the freedom of the will of sinner. So later on, you see, when you look at the Calvin, the Reformation, actually a lot is picking up from Augustine's idea, okay? And that's not his idea, that's in the Bible. Jeremiah, can you read this?
Okay. Romans 5, verse 12. Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all men, because all sinned.
Continue.
Psalms 51, verse 5. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Psalm 58, verse 3. Even from birth the wicked go astray. From the womb they are wayward and speak lies.
Okay, thank you. Remember last Friday we have a lengthy Q&A. I really enjoyed that, okay? We specifically talk about, will baby be saved? Okay, even we say the babies indicated Bible, some God has special treatment on them, but we cannot say baby has no sin, okay? Because the Bible here say, even in the mother's womb, sinful from the time my mother conceived me, okay? All right. So we covered two, okay, Asceticism, Augustine, and now we're coming to how we call the Roman Catholic Church started forming, right? So the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay, this is just kind of some simple or to look at the history of Rome. 395, right? Theodosius divided the empire to west and east, okay? So the west speak Latin, the east speak Greek, right? And you see that from 310 that the barbarians, okay, that started coming to attack Rome, especially 310. The Gothic army coming to the Rome, wow, they attacked Rome for 3 days, all right? And 355, another group of barbarian came to Rome again. Could you believe that if you did during that time, all right? And finally, 476, okay, finally 476, the West Roman Empire gone, all right? But you think about 100 years, they're suffering in decline. And any empire, no matter how strong, they're going to be destroyed, okay? So don't think about, oh, America is never fell. Think about, we only have 400 years history. Rome has thousands history. And this is kind of divided. Look at this, okay? So the red part is the West Roman Empire, speak Latin. The East is less a bit longer, okay? And they speak Greek, right? So, okay, so the Italy, see it? All right. We're going to think about the why the church, especially Roman Catholic Church, right? So that's 5 bishops in the 5 metropolitan areas play the dominant role, right? So first one, Jerusalem. Church was born in Jerusalem, right? So of course there was have special influence. But who can tell me what year Rome destroyed Jerusalem and the temple? What year? Christine, do you remember?
80, 70?
Very good, very good. Okay, so they kind of weaken the influence of Jerusalem. And later, you remember when Christian left Jerusalem in the book of Acts, which city is the major mission city? After they moved out from Jerusalem, which city? Especially Paul and Silas, Timothy, they're based on the city. Who? Which city? Who can tell me? Daniel?
Antioch.
Antioch, very good, Antioch. So of course the Antioch also become very important, right? So now Jerusalem, Antioch. How about Alexandria? Alexandria is in Egypt. Okay, also a very influential city. Actually, is the 2nd largest city in the Roman Empire. Okay. How about Constantinople? Why here has Constantinople? What about the city? Who can tell me about the city? Why is so significant?
It was like the capital of the Western Roman Empire?
West or east?
East.
East, yes. Okay. When who moved the city to Constantinople. I always say that.
Constantine.
Constantine, you know, right? And then what's the current day's name? What's current day's name?
Istanbul.
Istanbul. I'll be there March 25th. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. March 25th, I'll be Istanbul. All right. And Rome, so you know. Okay. So, okay. So this is the map of this 5 cities. Rome is here. Constantinople, okay, Antioch, Jerusalem, Alexandria. So you see, only Rome is on the West Roman Empire, right? All these are belong to the East Roman Empire. So that's why Rome becomes so significant, right? Okay, just backward a little bit. 330, they moved the capital. Okay, Constantine moved it. And so Constantinople also called the Byzantine, and we renamed it to Constantinople. Now it's called Istanbul. All right. So the Western Church Center in Rome, the Eastern Church Center in Constantinople. Okay. And the invasion of the barbarians. Okay, we talked about that already. So what happened when the emperor, they moved the capital to Constantinople? So the political center become empty. Okay, so the bishop or pope, Leo the Great, become play more influence. He's a bishop of Rome, and we call him the first pope. Okay, so remember this guy, Leo first or Leo the Great, considered the first pope. He led the Council of Chaldean. Remember there's 4 councils. Okay, so he was leader of that, and that's why make it significant, because Hans, hey, we Chinese, we play part of this, right? Han was defeated by China, and then so they moved west forward, they attacked Rome, and it's Leo the Great came out of Rome and said, please don't attack us. Okay, he negotiated with them. Wow, he saved the city at 452, right? In 55, he prevented the burning of Rome by Vandals. Okay, so he became the hero, and he gave the various tax to support patron successions. We'll talk about it more next week. That in Roman Catholic Church, they think the Pope is under the succession of Apostle Peter. So this is the painting, the hand come out, and then there's the, don't attack us. All right. So this pray the way that's become a Catholic church. Okay. So later on the East become the East Orthodox Church. The West under Pope in the Church of Rome become Roman Catholics. That's how they develop. Okay, so I think that's something we have to know. So from the early church, now it started to develop the Catholic Church, East Orthodox Church, and then from Roman Catholic Church, they come out the Protestant. That's who we are. All right. So that's later on we talk about this. Okay, so consider the situation. Think about you lived in that time, okay? Christian has become the state religion, and many attended church just for the privilege they are able to attend. The church, however, has also become increasingly secular and even corrupt. How do you, as a sincere and devoted Christian, respond? What would you do? Okay. And what can Christians learn from affirming as well the cautious about? Okay. So, but before that, let's turn the time to Grace. Who are we going to talk about?
Saint Benedict of Nursia.
Okay, good. That will be from next week. Okay, go ahead, Grace.
Okay, let me share screen. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make it to full screen.
Yeah. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Saint Benedict of Nursia and his basic life. So a quick note before we start, because Saint Benedict, he did not have an account of his life written by himself. His works and life were gathered by someone called Saint Gregory I in his book, The Dialogues. Therefore, there is a shortage of general information of Saint Benedict's specific life. So a lot of specific details that you would usually see in other saints wouldn't be included in Saint Benedict's life because he never wrote an autobiography about himself. And also during his time, Rome was undergoing a transformation from a declining monarchy to a medieval papacy. What that means is Rome was used to be ruled by kings and different Caesars to transition under, more like being under the Pope. Okay, so introduction and fast facts about Saint Benedict. His birth was around March 2nd, 480 AD, and he died around March 21st, 548 AD. He lived around 68 years. His father, you can see the names. His father and mother were both Roman nobles, and he had a twin named Scholastica. He had many different titles, both very high, both regarded as very high. For example, he was the father of Western Monoteicism, the patron saint of Europe. That meant he was sort of like the head saint of all Europe. And he founded one of the most famous monasteries called the Monastery of Monte Cassino. Saints have feast days. That's when they get celebrated. So monks celebrate his day on March 21st, while the Roman Catholic Church celebrate his feast day on July 11th. Okay, major events in his life. Saint Benedict was raised by a noble Roman family, being sent to Rome to study. However, he was not satisfied by the life he found there, so he settled down at Anfi, not far from Rome. He later decided to live in a cave by the rocks of Subiaco. Again, there's no specific information involved. He had probably have gotten in touch with Christianity much before. He lived there by the cave in the rocks for 3 years without a lot of outside contact. Only a monk named Romanus came to visit him and provided him with food and clothing. So he literally sees almost nobody for 3 years. Fame of his sanctity or holiness spread, and Benedict was persuaded to become an abbot of one of the nearby monastery. An abbot is sort of like a director or head of a monastery. During this period, he founded 12 different monasteries. Okay. Soon he became very famous, and Roman patricians and senators began sending their sons to become monks under his care. That's very important. Some people didn't like his way of preaching, and twice he was nearly poisoned. There was one myth where he was eating a piece of bread that somebody had poisoned, but then a raven snatched it out of his hand. And the myth says that later they found out this piece of bread was poisoned, and Benedict gave thanks to God for saving him. Benedict later settled down on the summit to a hill above Cassino, halfway between Rome and Naples. You can see I have included a map. It's right under Italy, Monte Cassino. You can see there he founded the monastery of Monte Cassino. His twin sister, Scholastica, became a nun and also ran a monastery. So this is one of Benedict's most recognized works. It's called the Holy Rule of Saint Benedict, otherwise known as the Benedictine Rule. It consists of 73 chapters, and it introduces certain ideals and vows a monk must fulfill. It's sort of like the standard to how to be a monk. One of his most known quotes is the Latin phrase ora et labora, meaning work and pray. King Charlemagne of the Franks, or the French, he dominated that area of Rome over the time. And he ordered the Benedictine rule to be distributed across the whole of Western Europe to set as a standard for other monks. So here's a short introduction of what Benedictine life looks like. Benedict's rule outlined 3 principles. One was stability, which was lifelong commitment to monasticism. Loyalty, which is be willing to be shaped and to learn from the community and people and God around him. Obedience, which is humble love towards his peers and towards God. Benedict envisioned a balanced life of prayer and work, meaning you won't work all day, but you also will sort of be on your knees all day praying to God. He also valued very much the importance of community, which is understanding people no matter how quote unquote annoying they are. Hospitality was also very important to Benedict. He wanted his monks to welcome all sorts of people that requested help or hospitality in their monasteries, no matter what types of people they were. They also valued stewardship a lot, which is basically taking care of things. That meant treating gardening tools almost the same as altar objects. He wanted his monks to treat everything with equal precision and caution. All are to receive proper attention. That sort of means that the monks might be using the same bucket for 30 years or 10 years, but if, let's say, a new device comes up, they will also gladly accept it. That's treating the things with the same degree of consideration. Okay, so here are my sources I used, and thank you for watching. On the left is his sister Scholastica, on the right is Saint Benedict.